Michael Boyle's StrengthCoach.com presents the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. PerformBetter.com.
All right, hey everybody, welcome to episode 355 of the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. I'm your host, Anthony Renna. The show notes are located at StrengthCoachPodcast.com. All right, today on the StrengthCoach.com and NBSC.TV Coach's Corner, spoke with Coach Boyle about a thread from Twitter called Foam Rolling. Now, he posted about how he just really can't understand why people just get so crazy about something that just really, at the end of the day, makes a lot of people feel better. Like, the argument just seems a little crazy. So we just kind of went into a little bit more depth about whether or not he just rolls or stops at a point and how he uses it. Also, a quote he had on Twitter about how it's a lot easier to run an athlete into injury than to run an athlete into shape. And that led to some speed training conversation and a warning to coaches about sprinting. So we also touched on his article, How Fast. Don't forget, I did a special interview with Coach Boyle called 40 Mistakes, 40 Years. You can check that out at StrengthCoachPodcast.com. There's a link there to have access. All right, on the Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach segment, brought to you by AG1 by Athletic Greens. You get a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. I use it every day. Been using it lately as a pre-workout, actually. Go to athleticgreens.com/strengthcoach for that offer. Today I have on Kevin Carr, co-founder of Movement as Medicine, co-founder of CFSC, and now a new owner at MVSC. He's also the author of Functional Training Anatomy. I wanted to speak to him about his upcoming lecture at the spring seminar at MVSC this week, actually, April 1st and 2nd. It's not just at MVSC, it's also virtual, so you have an opportunity to see it then. You can get a link at the show notes. His lecture is called Get Moving, How to Get Clients Started and Make Them Stay. We talked about the changing demographic at MBSC and how they're handling it, how clients can have a perception of a place and should we try to change that. This idea that everyone is an athlete, to kind of build on this idea about the changing demographic. Why you should know about uninitiated believers, who they are and why they're important for you. What it means to activate and acclimate new clients, how to show success that first time out with new clients, why the conversation is the most important thing you can master, understanding what motivates clients, and so much more. A lot of stuff there with Kevin coming up in a little bit. All right, for the Naamly, maximizing the member experience with Sumit Seth. Sumit is the founder of Naamly, who helps you build relationships through personalized communication so your members stay longer and pay longer. Go to Naamly.com, Naamly.com. You can schedule a demo to get a feel for what it's all about. Use the referral code StrengthCoach to get started on your free 30-day trial. Today, Sumit starts a 2-part series about personalized attention, and it's really about, for me, paying attention to how companies treat people. So when you go into somewhere or do something, just to kind of see what they're doing, and when you have a great experience or even when you have a bad experience, to really kind of pay attention to that and see some things that you can use. So Sumit's going to talk about another trip that he took, so he really gets some good nuggets from his trip. So really enjoy his stories on these things. All right, for Perform Better, the online sale right now, 50% off a bunch of stuff, including bumper plates, kettlebells, and dumbbells. Check that out at PerformBetter.com. Guys, the one-day seminars continue. Last one in Chicago, April 22nd. Also, the summit dates for Orlando, Chicago, Long Beach, and Providence are all set. I'm excited. All 4 places. I'm speaking in Long Beach. Guys, check it all out at PerformBetter.com. Lots to get to, so let's get on the phone with Coach Boyle. All right. Now it's time for the StrengthCoach.com and NBSC.TV Coach's Corner with Coach Boyle. You can try StrengthCoach.com out for 7 days for free. Totally new format, user-friendly. Same great forum as always. Go to StrengthCoach.com for the free 7-day trial. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Ian. How are you?
All right. Hanging in there. How was Perform Better for the one day? I saw that picture of like old school, like Gray, Stu, and Mike Boyle. How was it?
It actually was really good. The bad part, I jokingly said, is I had to go for the first lecture because Sue was first and Gray was second and I was third, and I wanted to hear them. I thought it was a really good lineup. So I ended up. It was a full day of seminaring for me, which I haven't done in quite a while.
Yeah,
And the good thing was the practicals. I had all the helpers from MBSC. So the practicals, I ended up being the timer. So all I had to do was kind of stand around and tell groups to rotate.
nice.
But it was good. It was actually really good. So it was nice to see everybody, one.
Yeah.
And it's just nice to hear Gray and Sue speak. So that was really good to kind of just be an attendee for the first couple hours.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I wonder if Sue stayed over with the Boyles, or like that's
I thought about that actually. I tried. I probably should have chased her down before she started to get her here.
yeah,
A couple glasses of wine.
exactly. Coach, let's go over. You had a post, and I say this a lot too, right? Sometimes you post something, and I'm thinking, all right, whatever. You get a couple likes, but foam rolling. You wrote, I'm not sure what foam rolling does except make you feel better. Why are we arguing about doing something for 5 minutes before a workout that makes you feel better? A lot of people, I still don't understand the hatred, why people are so attached to not doing it or doing it. Like you said, if it makes you feel good, who cares? I don't know. People go down a rabbit hole. You're relieving. You're uh, releasing trigger points or whatever. Like you said, look, get on it. Makes you feel better. If it doesn't make somebody feel better, would you say, yeah, look, hey, go on the bike for 5 minutes?
I
If somebody said, Mike, I don't like it.
Probably not, because I was so convinced that it works that I think I would try to just be like, bear with me for a while. Let's dig into this more. I no pun intended, but let's try to find some spots to work on, because I've never really found anybody who, if they committed to the process of foam rolling, didn't feel better. I found some people who start out in that beginning spot of this is stupid, this is a waste of time. But when we really show people how to use it, I think in our situation, the vast majority of people come around.
Mike, have you done, I know I was listening to Emily Splickle Dr. Emily talk about doing some work on the foot. And one thing that she was saying is she kind of goes against a little bit in the beginning of rolling the foot. So I think she rolls it eventually, but in the beginning, she wants you just to pick a spot and then the blood will get into that area. And she picks 5 spots on the foot. She does the same thing on the hands. Have you done any of that with foam roll where you're kind of on the hip? Like I'll do, like, my hips get tight. I'll kind of sit on that hip, sit on that spot, won't even move, won't even roll. Have you played with that a little
Yeah,
bit?
I tell people that all the time. If you find that spot, just stay there. I think the rolling. Sometimes I think the rolling is more the discovery process. I'm going to roll around and then I'm going to hit this place and think, ooh, all right, I'm going to stay there. And sometimes I feel like maybe it's not staying there. Sometimes it might be gently rocking.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might be like I love to do my rotator cuffs and just sort of think a little bit of gentle side to side so that I'm moving that roller over the surface. But I get it. I don't think, and I think that's part of the problem. It doesn't have to be about smashing and mashing. That was one of my beats kind of with Kelly Starrett, the CrossFit stuff, use an Olympic bar, you know what I mean? Like use a spiky roller. I don't think it necessarily has to be super painful, but I do agree that if you're dense, and I think that's where some of the CrossFit stuff came from, if you have a lot of muscular density, you will do well with things like body tempering and using an Olympic bar and some of those things.
Yeah.
My problem is when we start applying that, you have somebody using an Olympic bar on a frail 50-year-old woman, or body tempering somebody who doesn't have enough mass to benefit. Because that's the thing with me. I liked the body tempering idea for me. But when I saw people body tempering, their adult clients, and I distinctly remember the video and the guy saying, be really careful rolling this 70-pound metal object over their cervical spine. And I was like, ugh, kind of cringy. But yet I like the feeling. I like the depth. But I'm also somebody, I like a painful massage. When I'm getting massage work done, there are sometimes where, it's kind of like, oh God, you're like your eyes are, you don't know whether to open them or, am I opening them really wide or am I closing them? Because this really doesn't feel good. But then when that person gets away, I feel better. Other people will say, oh no, don't do that. But I have had a lot of benefit from discomfort, I guess I would say. And in some cases, pain in massage. But everybody's different. But my point more of the thing, and it was because I saw somebody's post this morning and they were showing people using foam rollers for stuff other than foam rolling. And they said there are still some good uses for foam rollers. And I thought, why are people still continuing to do this? And then one guy posted and sent me a magazine, an Outside Magazine article. He said, oh, well, this guy talks about how they don't work in this article. And of course, that guy did a meta-analysis, which I'm not a fan of the meta-analysis thing because I feel like it doesn't matter if you look at a whole bunch of studies, if you look at a lot of bad studies. 7 of the studies were related to foam rolling's effect on speed. And it's like, it goes back like the FMS doesn't prevent injuries. And it doesn't prevent injuries because it was never intended to prevent injuries. So if you study it as an injury prevention tool and say, oh, we did an FMS on people and they still got hurt, you would look at it and think, yeah, because the FMS is a screen. It's not, there's no intervention applied. They're not going to not get hurt because you did the screen. And it's the same way with rolling. Oh, all these people rolled and they didn't decrease their 40 time. And I'm thinking, no one's ever said that foam rolling was going to decrease your 40 time. And it gets into sort of all my conventional rants about research. But if you pick a bad topic, then you're probably going to get a bad result. And the effect of foam rolling on speed, I would love to see a study the effect of foam rolling on subjective wellness feelings. Right? Got to tell you, I took 100 people, we had them all foam roll, and then we asked them to tell us how they felt. And I'm going to bet you that the correlation would be massively high with people saying they felt better. The problem with that is people would say, well, that's just their perception. But I guess, isn't that what we would be doing? Any soft tissue technique would be to make somebody feel better. And if they did it and they felt better, then that technique worked. Now, the why, and that's what people say, oh, I hate when they say they're breaking up patients. I'm like, I don't care. I always say to people, it's like untying knots, whatever. It's trying to give somebody a visual for what's going on without saying, I know at the cellular level that this is happening.
Yeah.
Producing more histamines, and we're doing, we don't really know. Is it lymphatic? I had somebody the other day say, should you foam roll distal to proximal? Should you start at your calves and try to move everything back towards the heart? And I thought, it's actually probably not a bad idea. The original sequence I demonstrated years ago in my foam rolling DVD, that's what we did, but it was more to make it easy. Okay, calves, hamstrings, hips, back, but not with any real scientific design about thinking about lymphatic motion or blood going back towards the heart or whatever.
Yeah.
Just, well, start down by your feet and work up towards your head. Seems pretty good. Now we start in the middle because I sit on it and we start with hips.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Look, it does make sense though. I did see a hypervolt video from a therapist, and he was doing that basically, like you said, going in the direction towards the heart, etc. So there was a reasons behind it. So I agree with you 100%. We had Kevin Carr on. He's on this episode talking about his topic this week at the MBSC Spring Seminar, and we just got a real good topic about how making people feel good and understanding that, finally, at least that's what's going to happen at MBSC now that they have some new owners there. But so I had a client, Mike, who the other day she was, I was the first time with her and I was talking to her and she was like, okay, yeah. Oh, the best part I really liked, he would stretch me out and he would use that gun on me. So my first session with her today, what I do, as soon as she came in, I said, Kathleen, let's get on the thing. I put the gun on her. I stretched her out. Then we went and did a light workout. And then I put her back on the table and stretched her again. The woman was just like, this is awesome. That's how I want her to be feeling right now. I'm looking at the long tail here, not this, oh man, I got to worry about getting her a great workout. And she's going to be coming in once a week. I'm probably going to be following that formula for the most part because she likes it. And I know she won't get sore, and I'm going to take it really super slow. But I think we forget it's about them, not about what we learned in, exercise physiology.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. But I also think even it is about what you learned in exercise physiology, or it is what you learned in statistics, or whatever it is. Because, hey, study a variable that you think you're going to influence.
Yep.
And that was the difference. And the other studies, the guy was talking in the Outside Magazine article, well, there were 4 studies that looked at flexibility, and there was a small effect, a small statistically significant effect in terms of increasing flexibility. And I think, okay, that's at least something that you might think might happen from foam rolling. But if anybody told me they thought, hey, we did foam rolling and then he ran a faster 40, I'd be like, I don't think that was the foam rolling.
Yeah.
And I guess I don't know. I think sometimes on Twitter, sometimes it's whatever's in my head at that moment. And I saw that post and it got me aggravated. And what I thought about when I'm looking at that post is, why are people constantly being negative about foam rolling when we know that people feel better? And then I thought, oh, that would make a pretty good tweet. So why don't I just tweet that out? And then you look, like you were saying, I look at the engagement. I would not be surprised if I'm at 300 likes right now on that post, which was just sort of spur of the moment thinking this morning, sitting on the couch.
Well, I'll tell you right now, here you go. 66,000 views, 279 likes, 4 bookmarks, 9 quotes, and 24 retweets. So that's a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty good engagement with.
Yeah.
And I would say the vast majority positive. There were a few.
Yeah.
But that's
just
again,
fine.
if you don't get some negative, it's probably not a good post.
There you go. Mike, speaking of negative, it's a lot easier. You wrote, it's a lot easier to run an athlete into an injury than run an athlete into shape. I figured that would get a lot more retweets as well. But so my question was almost like, okay, Mike, but you're sprinting a lot, but you also had a caveat for sprinting. Hey, spring high school sport coaches, the dumbest thing you could do is run sprints to get in shape. Sprints are to get fast, and the volume of general running is already drastically increased. In week 1, less is more unless your goal is getting kids hurt. Practice is conditioning. So, Mike, talk to us just about how you approach this. I know you people who follow you, but for the people that haven't heard it, they're like, wait, Mike, you're telling me not to run to get them in shape, but then what about sprinting? And now I'm not supposed to sprint them to get them in. So just give us the overview of how you would do this.
Yeah. So the overview is, I think it is a good idea to run, let's say, 3 to 8 sprints a week with the intent of getting fast. So short sprints, long recoveries. Really good idea. I think the opposite is true of using running as conditioning when you've already so drastically increased the volume of running. What you're going to end up with is pulled hamstrings and pulled groins and shin splints. And I was watching a high school practice, and it was high school girls lacrosse, and the girls literally had no sticks, and they were just running up and down the field, running sprints. And I thought, this is so not right, so completely misguided. And then you got the coaches chiming in, well, how are you going to get them in shape? It was their responsibility to get ready. And you think, I get it. But getting a whole bunch of people hurt does not accomplish the goal. And I think that's the difference that we've got to get people to think about is, I understand. And people say, well, it's their fault. They haven't done the work. Well, so you're going to lose games because people are out injured because you're mad because they didn't do what they needed to do in preseason. And then you start thinking, well, was there a preseason? If you have kids coming out of winter sports, and the point I made was, all my guys are coming out of hockey. It's really hard in the winter in Boston to get a lot of running done, getting ready for lacrosse when you're at hockey practice every day, doing something completely different than running. And again, from a cardiovascular standpoint, most of those guys, we played 3 games yesterday, and most of the guys looked like they were in pretty good shape, but it was still a lot of running for guys who had been up to 2 weeks ago, they'd been skating. And I think that's the part for high school coaches. I just think, and actually Ray Tucker said it, there's a lot of people kind of stuck in the Junction Boys idea. And they're still 40, 50 years ago with Bear Bryant instead of looking at where we are right now. And it was a different time.
Yeah. Michael, when you said 3 to 8 a week, so obviously you're starting out progressing, and are they going full speed? Like, so kids are coming in, are they going to go full speed? Are we taking a chance if they're not in shape?
Kids are going to go full speed, but the distance is going to be very short because I think the difference, if we're saying 3 or 4 to 8 sprints a week, we're talking about, in our case, 15-yard sprints. So a fly 10 with a 5-yard lead in. So you're not getting anywhere near top speed. You're not getting a really big stimulus. You're getting just enough to get started. And I think that's where people have to go back and kind of do their homework, because the article that you alluded to, the What's Fast article, is really just taken primarily from the 3-part series that I did about if you're not timing, you're not doing speed training.
Yep.
And I mean, there's a lot more to this, but the basic point is don't add additional running for conditioning in the first couple of weeks of practice because the volume of running is already too high. That's really the message that at least I'm trying to get across.
Mike, also, you did mention in that, and I didn't realize this either until I read it, was, and you set the tone. Hey, look, this is for elite professional hockey, elite women's hockey, lacrosse, elite college hockey, high-end high school, middle schoolers. So, but Tony Holler, his fly-in 10s are taken in the 30 to 40-yard segment of a 40-yard dash. And you would actually refer that as a 30-yard fly-in. To be clear, this means that the last 10 yards of the 40-yard dash is recorded as a fly-in 10. Also, there's spikes. He's on a track. Things are going to be different with turf, rubber, and even hallway tile, in sneakers. So people have to kind of make their own way with this, wouldn't you say?
I think they do. And that's why I tried to provide these kind of guidelines in terms of, okay, this is what we do for the first 3 weeks. This is how we prepare our athletes for what's going to come. So, and if you followed our program, you wouldn't even be running 30s until weeks. So what would you say, 79, 10 weeks, 10, 11, 12, you'd now be running 30-yard sprints. So you wouldn't even get to Tony's 40. We don't get in. Part of it for us too is, and I said this, we don't get to 40 because we don't have the room.
The ham in the pot.
Yeah, exactly. It's the ham in the pot. Yep, it's exactly that. And people don't understand that part in terms of, for you to be able to run a 40 indoors in the Northeast, you need a really big building. Because our building is 120 feet long. It's big. But it's not big enough to run 40 because 120 is 40. Literally. So for us, we can go 25 is the max that we can go indoors. And then we can go a little bit outside. We could actually run a 40 outside if we wanted to, but because of the way our programming is, we just don't get there.
Yeah. Yeah. I was doing, when I was in White Plains, I got to 10-10. So 10-yard, fly. 10 yards lead in. But I didn't like it because I only had like 8 to 10 left before they hit a wall.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's how we are. So when we get to 25, or actually on all of ours, we have, I think we have 15 yards to decelerate. So I think we save like 45 feet at the end, but that's not, when you get someone who's going max velocity, full speed, that's not a lot of distance. I mean, these guys are really like boom, boom, boom. The one thing we said, and I said this in a talk I did today, people talk about deceleration training. We're getting deceleration training because of the length of our building.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Yeah, you have to look at what you're doing, and there you go. For me, I was downstairs, and the end of it though was around a corner. So I really didn't even like doing the 10 first. I just did the 5 for the
Remember,
most part.
I have some videos of Devin McConnell's guys when he was at UMass Lowell. They had a really short room.
Yep.
They were just running 10s. They would never do any
That's
fly.
right. Yeah.
They only had enough room to do like a hand start 10. But that's the sort of life gives you lemons, make lemonade kind of thing, because that was what he had.
Yep.
Okay, this is what I had. This is what I got. I said to people, I'd have no problem doing flying 5s if I had to. Right. If that was all I had room for, and someone said you could do 5 yards into a fly 5, I'd start timing flying 5s, and I'd have all my data like I had in that article for flying 5s, because that's what I got. Right now, we can do fly 10s, but again, you look, and that's why I always say to people, we've got to compare the fly-in, trying to compare Tony Holler's times, where he's got lots of guys in the 0.9s. We just had a kid get in the 0.9s from 15. I think he's the first kid we ever had get in the 0.9s from 15. But we're on turf. There's no cleats. There's a lot of variables there that are not the same.
Yeah. Coach, last question. What are you reading right now?
What am I reading right now? I went back. I'm finishing up I Love It Here, which I didn't finish. So I just restarted. I'm kind of 3/4 of the way through. And it's a book about it. Actually, I was talking about it in my Perform Better talk. It's basically a book about being a boss. And it's by a guy, he developed a thing called Undercover Millennial, where he sent millennials into businesses undercover, and they interviewed people at the business about what they liked and what they didn't like. So it talks a lot about what people like in the job setting.
Very cool. All right. I Love It Here, it's called?
Yep, I Love It Here.
All right, good stuff. All right, Coach, we'll let you go, and we will talk to you next time. Have a great weekend at the MBSC Spring Seminar.
Yes, sir. I will see you. Thanks.
Welcome to Naamly's Maximizing the Member Experience segment. My name is Sumit Seth, and I'm the co-founder of Naamly. This is a 2-part segment where I'm going to walk you through the experience I had during a recent trip in San Francisco, where I was pitched by a timeshare company to upgrade my status. The entire experience shed light on a very well-crafted process that led to some surprising insights. So I decided to squeeze in another boys' trip during the President's Day weekend holiday and booked a quick getaway to San Francisco. I make these family trips because I've learned that the quickest way to change behaviors is by changing one's environment. As the boys continue to grow, I find them getting more and more interested in hanging out with their friends and playing video games. So these trips enable them to get exposure to new places, people, and customs, and helps me build lifelong memories with them, as well as get some quality time with friends and clients. On this particular trip, I booked us at the Donatello property, 1 block from Union Square, a very happening part of town. A few days prior to my flight, I got a text from Ronnie at the concierge desk introducing herself and sharing that they were looking forward to having me visit the property. She even asked that if there was anything in particular that I needed, I could reach out to this number. I'm used to getting these messages all the time when we check into a property, but this was the first time I got a personalized text message before I even set foot on the property. Later that day, I saw that I had received a similar yet more detailed email, and finally a call from Ronnie the next day to ensure that they had the correct number of guests listed on the reservation. The real question was whether or not my wife was with me. I shared my wife was out of town, and this was an all-boys trip. During the roughly 10 minutes conversation we had, I realized after the fact that I was brilliantly engaged by this person to share personal information, the purpose of our trip, and what prompted it, and got a sense of what was important to me and my boys. She asked me if I would be open to attending an owner's update, just some jargon for being open to being pitched to buy some more timeshare points, and then offered to get us a room upgrade in exchange for my time. I politely declined as I shared I was not with my wife and I just wanted to spend time with my kiddos. She politely pressed on and told me that it will only take 90 minutes. And the room upgrade would ensure that we had significantly more space to really enjoy ourselves. A fantastic move on her part. I had to jump on to my next meeting, so I explained to her that I'd think about it and let her know. My direct but polite way of getting off the call and attending to the matter at hand. The following day, the day of our flight, I received a call back from Ronnie, who confidently asked if I'd given the offer a thought and shared that she could throw in a free Alcatraz tour, which the boys would really like. Did I mention that in my earlier conversation? I had shared with her that I was keen on taking the kids to Alcatraz. Ronnie was good, really good. But this wasn't my first rodeo. I shared that I really didn't want to invest 90 minutes of my time knowing that things always take longer, and this trip was all about family time. I had to switch off my phone as the air hostess announced it was time to switch off the phones. Ronnie, hearing the announcement in the background, assured me it would be exactly 90 minutes to think about it, and she'll touch base the next day after arrival. Checking in late, the desk attendant handed me a note from Ronnie welcoming us to the hotel and wishing us a good night's rest with a PS of some nearby diners that she felt we would really enjoy. I was amazed, really impressed. I wanted to meet this person who had shown so much persistence. Many professionals would have thrown in the towel, but not Ronnie. She kept at it like a pro, keeping a warm, positive attitude. I told myself that I would show up and learn from this whole experience. And yes, the Alcatraz tour tickets were definitely enticing. The following morning, she called me. I had a feeling she would, and asked if I had given any of the diners a try, which I did, and then asked if I could attend the owner's upgrade and pressed that I would find it beneficial and reminded there was no obligation to buy. I said yes, only because of Ronnie, and we worked out the time and place to do so. If you followed along, this is what has all transpired. In a span of few days, I received a text, an email, followed by 3 calls and a handwritten note. Let's break it up. She reached out to me through all mediums, text, email, and phone. She realized that I didn't engage with her through text or email, but did with call. So made it a point to connect with me on a go-forward basis using my preferred mode of communication. Every exchange she made a different offer, a better and more lucrative one to get me to just show up. Every offer was built upon my needs and was really personalized, speaking to my benefit. A bigger room, the Alcatraz tour, she really listened to me. And then had welcomed me to the hotel with a note and a suggestion of nearby diners. She used language to make me feel special with the owner's update and how it would be beneficial for me. Not about her doing her job or meeting her quota. The whole process was personalized. Granted, the ticket size would be significantly higher should I purchase. Recounting it now, I'm still impressed. So much so that I'm sharing this all with you. I'm convinced that if we showed the same tenacity, skill, and creativity as Ronnie in our own follow-up processes, there is no reason why we won't be successful. In part 2, I'll fill you in on the actual strengths presentation itself. This is Sumit Seth, co-founder of Naamly. For more info, please check out naamly.com to schedule a free demo to discover how you could chalk out your own personalized experience for your sales process, just like Ronnie. Use the referral code StrengthCoach to get started on a true, free 30-day trial, no strings attached.
All right, guys, now time for the Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach segment, brought to you by AG1 Athletic Greens, 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. I use it every day, fills the gaps for me and my nutrition. I actually have been using it lately as almost like a pre-workout. So it's been kind of giving me a little bit of boost. But they're going to give you free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you got to do, go to athleticgreens.com/strengthcoach to take advantage of that offer. All right, today I got my old friend on, Kevin Carr. I can't believe, Kev, you've been at MBSC since 2008. You are now an owner of MBSC. I don't know what you're thinking, but you got like, it's like that old, there was an old Living Color
Oh,
some
yeah.
of the kids were, remember there was one skit where they're I got 10 jobs, man.
Yes.
And he's like, I remember they were at a funeral and the guy's like, "Where you going, man? The man just died. That means there's jobs open, man. I gotta go." I got 10. And that's you. You got 10. You've co-founded and you're still traveling for CSFC, Certified Functional Strength Coach. You still got your plate full. Movement is medicine. You're now an owner at MBSC. You just had a baby 9 months ago.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is I keep seeing Ariel's bringing her to work.
Every day they're here. Yep. Just bring her in here, get her used to it, you know?
So cool. I met this guy, his grandfather started Bally Total Fitness, right? It was something before that. The last name's Wildman and passed away a couple of years ago. But the kid, that was his grandfather. And he said his dad met his mom in the gym. And like he grew up in gyms. Like he's only 30, but he's probably been in the business for 20 years, you know? So it's so crazy. And I feel like she's going to be like that.
Yeah, we were in here yesterday working out, and we just brought her in. Then we have this big, kind of crash pad that we use when the athletes run sprints so they don't hit the wall. And we just lay that thing flat, throw some toys on it, and she has a great time while we work out. So
yeah. So cool. She's always smiling too. So it's awesome. And that's, we're going to talk a little bit today about you have the spring seminar coming up.
Mm-hmm.
It's this week. And normally I'd be like, oh man, I missed the deadline, but it's April 1st and 2nd, right? And 2 days, and it's virtual too, right?
Yep. So you could come in person or you could watch it via live stream. We have a video production company that comes in, live streams the whole thing. So you could watch it from your couch, from your bed, wherever you want, and not miss a thing.
Very cool. And I was talking to Mike about this, and we have had Vinny and Dan were on talking about their topics. And I talked to Mike about it's kind of funny. Like if we look at the topics,
mm-hmm.
Mike Boyle, 40 years, 40 mistakes. Okay. Mike's been talking, I did a special episode with him. We did two special interviews with him. Jordan Sy, how to grow and engage social media audience. Pat Van Gallen, the aging accelerants, counter to buffer. Scott Livingston, using video analysis to inform your programming, who Scott might be the only one who's kind of on the athletic side, because all of you guys now, Eric DiDario's doing how to become a trusted resource in your client's life. That could be both. Okay. How to coach and execute semi-private group training with Vinny. Okay. That could be both, right? Being a good coach. The aging adult from Dan McGinley. All right. That's getting away from, we're all athletes. Believe me. I'm 56. All right. We're all athletes. And you got Get Moving, how to get clients started and make them stay. But so really moving towards understanding who the demographic has changed. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest realization we've come to over the last few years is, like the adult market is who keeps the lights on here and who really fuels this business. I mean, when I started in 2008, I could count on two hands like how many adults were in the building working out. And over time, especially when we moved into this new space in 2010, we really started growing the adult group business, and it's really taken off over the last few years. And us embracing that. And one of the things I discuss in my talk is like, for a long time, we made mistakes even in our marketing and sales, not trying to target those people and realizing from the outside looking in, the average adult might think like this place only trains athletes. But the reality is the majority of our clientele, are people from 35 to 60 who are working out in adult groups or doing personal training. And so I guess as you become a part of the business more, you start to become an owner of the business, you really start to focus in on who are the people that are really responsible for your success and how can we cater to them better.
Yeah, you mentioned this idea, this perception. You got a pretty full house there. We always want to grow our business, but do you work on trying to change the perception, or are you just like, let's kill it? Let's worry about who's in here, who's inside the gym. They're going to help us with referrals. Or do you try to change the perception over time?
I think first and foremost, you have to do a great job in the gym. because the people that are there are going to be your number one referral generators. I mean, the majority of people that come walking in the door are people who have been referred by people who are already with us. And so by doing a great job here, that fuels it. But outside of that, I do think you need to think of your perception. I mean, even just the name Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning, I think sometimes to the average person, they think like that might be too intimidating for them, or it's just athletes. And then when they, come in, even when they first come in here, it's just pictures of athletes on the wall and jerseys on the wall. So it can be intimidating. I mean, I had my client, Stu and Nancy, who I use as an example all the time, they're 80 and 81. They had a friend that had been coming here for decades and had been trying to get them to come. He was about 20 years younger than them. And he said, you got to go out there and work out. And they would go to our website and they would see, Mike Boyle, strength coach of the Boston Red Sox, Boston Bruins, BU. And they'd be like, oh, that place, literally the quote from Nancy was, that place is just for athletes. We can't go there, until he physically put them in the car and drove them up here and made them come. And that was 12 years ago. And now they're diehards. So the perception, you still have to battle that even when you have a great word of mouth referral. So I think we've tried to, go out of our way to try to highlight on our social media, our ads, our messaging to the average person. Because when you get in here and you look around, you're like, oh, all these people look like me, and they move like me, and it's not so intimidating. But you realize there's a big fear of people, their willingness to step into the gym in the first place when they think they don't belong.
Yeah, and I have to say, for people that might be thinking, and I know this happens with a lot of young trainers, they think, I just want to work with athletes.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I started training in person again here in Indy, and I mostly working with golfers right now, although not exclusively. But I had a golfer this morning, and I just love it. I mean, he's a teacher. He's in his 50s. He's not a 17, 20-year-old, 30-year-old, whatever. I have a 35-year-old who's still on the LPGA trying to, make it, et cetera. And absolutely love working with her. So I get it. I get the work, but it doesn't have to end, because I know people are going to laugh, but the way pickleball has gone bananas right now, everybody's taking it up. All these older folks are taking it up, right? So to me, they're still athletes, and they look at it like they're serious. My golfers are serious. They want to win. They want to beat their friends. They want to hit the ball longer. So I think we have to change our perception as well sometimes about the demographic that we want to work with.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, that's the majority of the population out there. The most of the people you're going to train who are going to be available to work with you aren't going to be like you or I. They're not going to be fitness enthusiasts, first off. They're going to be regular people. And something I actually referenced in my talk that's interesting, it's from the Stephen Therrett fitness management book. And I think I originally heard it on Mark Fisher, the Business for Unicorns podcast. And they talked about, level of fitness consciousness among Americans as a predictor of joining and staying with exercise. And the reality is, 17% of people who exercise are who they surveyed were what you call hardcore participants, meaning they're already training themselves. They're probably trainers, people who really love fitness. They work out at home, or they already are a member somewhere else. That's not someone you're going to target as a client. 2% are non-believers, meaning you'll never convert them. They don't believe in exercise. They don't want to exercise. 16% are indifferent, meaning like they don't care either way. But that means there's 65% in a category that they call uninitiated believers. And this is a survey of people 18 or over in America. So that means that 65% is 167 million potential clients. These are people that believe they should exercise, know exercise is good for them, but aren't firmly committed to an exercise program. And so if you want to be successful and you want to have a full gym and a full list of clients, those are the people you should be targeting. I would say there's no shortage of clients. We're not really competing with the people down the street. We need to do a better job targeting the people who know they should be exercising that aren't in there. And so when I was thinking about that, I said, we really need to go out of our way to try to target that demographic, because those are the people walking down the street around us every day who could be potential paying clients.
Yeah. And I think, again, going back to this idea of the trainer thinking about who they want to work with, right?
Yeah.
I think they don't think, I don't want to work with beginners, or a lot of people will say, I don't want to work with an older person, or I don't want to work with somebody who might have just become off of injured. Those people are the best. They have the open windows. you can have so much potential with them, and they're so appreciative. I had a client, you probably heard me talk about this guy, Dan Silver. If you've seen my lecture, you know I talk about his wife, Ann Silver. Dan used to say to me, we had this running joke, okay, because he used to come in and I say, Dan, how you feeling today? And I feel like shit. And he said, he said it with a smile. He said, I don't sleep that great. I wake up with a headache every morning at 5:30. If I didn't have this appointment with you, I wouldn't be coming. But I'm here because of you, Ant. And then when he was leaving, and I always said, I'm going to get a sign to put over the door. You know, when people leave, he always used to say, Ant, at least I was here.
Exactly.
And I think that taught me a lot in terms of, you know what, sometimes we have this picture of what should be done, what we should be doing, what putting the goal, our thoughts about their goal in the session. No, it's about them. And for Dan, it was like, Ant, I'm here. You're saving my life. He lives in Florida. I haven't trained him. I live in Indy. He still emails me like, Ant, I'm alive because of you. Because I trained him for like 13, 14 years. But still, it's such a great demographic to work with, that the new person, the older person, some of these people you wouldn't normally think of.
Yeah, I was actually just about to make a post about this client that I have. And there's a guy that started with me. His name's Jeremy. And when he first started coming, he was begrudgingly coming one day a week because he was referred here. And like every time he'd come, it would be a battle. Sometimes he'd want to leave early. And he kept saying, like, I'm just coming because I know it's good for me, but like, I don't really want to be here. Right. And he works from home, single. And I'd always be like, let's look at your step count. And for the first couple of years, he didn't even want to discuss how many steps he did. Like, he's like, no, we're not even going to go there. I'm like, okay, over time, we'll get there. And I just started to develop a relationship with him. So he'd at least just want to come for that 1 hour a week. Yeah. And after a couple of years, he's like, all right, we can start looking at my steps on my Apple Watch. And so for a guy that works from home, he was doing 3,300 steps a day. So not good, right? By any standard, everyone's like 10,000 steps, whatever. But that's where he was at. So I said, okay, well, let's try to add like a 10-minute walk every day. So then after the next year, he was at 4,700 steps a day. Now, not up to 10,000, but significantly better for an average for the year. And then the next year, we were at about 6,000 steps a day. And now this past year, we looked and he was around 8,000 steps a day, which we know is really the cutoff for health. They say it's around 7,500 to 8,000 steps. And so like behavior change and those things take a lot of time to get people there. And those are the people that you can really make an impact on, but you have to realize they're not going to be where you are. You can't, if I said do 10,000 steps a day from him at the start, he would have left. Right. I would have lost my opportunity to make an impact on someone like him. Now he comes consistently. He works out at home, does body weight workouts. But it took, 8 years, 7 years, however long we've been together for him to really be able to make that change long term. And coaches need to be able to change their mindset to connect where the client is, I think, a little bit better.
Absolutely. I know I noticed it a lot more when I was doing, for my 50 for 50 program, we do one habit a week.
Yeah.
And I had to change the first habit to just follow the schedule.
Yeah.
For this week, right? And then the second week is protein. I don't talk about grams. I say, just have more protein. How much more? More. Just more. I don't care. Just have like one more piece of chicken today. So I had to learn, not the hard way, but I had to learn that a little bit more because I was having specific habits. And even one habit a week is still a lot for them to say, because we're still continuing the other habits, right? So when we start week 3, it's not like we're like, hey, you don't have to worry about the protein anymore and don't worry about the schedule, right? So we're building on those habits, but it does take time. And I think we're the ones who get frustrated. Like I think Coach Boyle used to love to say about, do you really need to change the program? Is it for them or is it for you? Right? Are you getting bored?
That's something we tell our coaches all the time. I was like, you're doing 10 sessions a day. They're doing 3 sessions a week at most. And so what seems boring and repetitive to you is brand new to them. And you could probably do the same program for the first few months and they wouldn't blink an eye and they continue to get better. quite frankly, you just might lose your mind. So you have to be okay with that.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your lecture.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going Saturday or Sunday? I didn't see the schedule.
Saturday. First up, Saturday. You know, the benefit of when you organize the seminar is you get to speak whenever you want.
Nice. You put Boyle on Sunday morning. Oh, nice.
I got to get the crowd in there early.
Exactly. Your topic is called Get Moving, how to get clients started and make them stay, which is obviously what we're talking about today. So let's talk about that. How do you, all right, let's just say they're coming in. We're not talking about the marketing of it. We got them in, but how do we get them started? Yeah, look, they're here, but how do we start this process without overwhelming them? Because again, we want to make them stay.
Mm-hmm. And so to give you an idea of the talk, what I do is I look at the entire function of Mike Wilson conditioning from beginning to end through the eyes of Never Lose a Customer Again by Joey Coleman. And in that book, he talks about the 8 phases of the customer experience. And the section you're talking about, what I think is the most important, I say in the presentation, are step 4 and step 5, which is activate and acclimate. So activate being their first time experiencing your business, their first time coming in and getting a training session. Then acclimate, really that first 60, he says 100 days. I think in gyms, it's probably 60 days as far as that critical period where they're going to say, hey, I want to continue to do this. Because we know most people who join a gym quit within 6 months. Most people who have a gym membership don't ever even use it. And so it's really important for us to really convert them in that first couple months. And so I think the key is, number one, showing them success the first time that they come in the door. And one thing I've really moved towards when we have a new client their first day is I want them to experience MBSC in its like full capacity the second they come in. I don't want to keep them in the back room for an assessment. I don't want to, feel like I'm poking and prodding them. I want them to get them out on the floor and feel what it's all about. So they start to build some confidence and they get that hit of dopamine that says like, I can do this. And so one thing that's important that we talk to our staff about all the time is we have a standard intro program for groups and a standard intro program for personal training. And it's set up so that we can get information from an assessment like an FMS or a screen within the workout, while they can also experience how we program and what it's like to exercise here. And it's programmed easy enough that when they leave, they feel like, oh, I can do this. I'd rather that first session be too easy for them and for them to leave and feel confident than them leaving and feeling like they got crushed and them getting up the next day and being like, my back hurts and my hip hurts. I want them to get up the next day and feel like they did something, but not so much that they can't do it again. And then over that intro program, over the first, 60 days or so, we have it planned out and programmed so that one, they're successful and that we're paying extra attention to them. I always say we want to take away any uncertainty for them over those first 2 months so that they feel like they're being supported. Because what I find in gyms often, especially in group training, is that person gets a lot of attention the first week. And then the next couple of weeks, they kind of drift off. And the silent person, the person you're not getting a lot of interaction from and you're not really paying a lot of attention to, they're the person that kind of drifts off after the first few weeks and never comes back. And so we want to make sure we're having extra coaches on the floor. We tend to always have a floating coach or intern with them, and that they're getting extra attention so they feel like, okay, I'm supported within this facility. And that first 60 days is an easy transition for them to start to understand your way of coaching and your way of doing business.
I love it. Now, wait, let's just take a step back. I love this idea about not the success right away and just putting them in a room. But sometimes there are some people that kind of want to feel like, okay, I want to get the conversation in person. I know the last few people that I've had really good talks with them, right? Just trying to get that information, trying to find out why they're here, find out where the pain is, why they haven't maybe reached their goals early on. And then, obviously get on the floor. I know one woman who I ended up signing up, we had our talk. I didn't do any exercise. Yeah. I went because she was talking about mobility and her last trainer she loved because he would stretch her at the end of the session. So we talked for a little while and then I brought her out on the I brought her out on the stretching table and I stretched her. Sold, right? Yeah. Signed up, loved it. So now I'm going to make sure I'm actually training her today. I'm actually going to start out. We have the hypervolt gun. I'm going to do a little massage, right? And then get a stretching. First thing, do some basic movements. Get back on the stretching table for the end. Make sure she feels comfortable. But are you talking to them a little bit, though? You're going to develop that rapport beforehand?
I think the conversation is the most important part. I always say, like, you have to connect with the client before you coach them. And so in that intro program, we even have guided questions for the staff that are like standard intake questions to start a conversation. Like, I don't care about the intensity of the exercise. I don't even care if you get through the intro program at all through the first day. If you're having a conversation, it's the most important part. And so, like, some of the standard questions I always ask, like, what motivated you to come in here in the first place? What are some of your past experiences with exercise? Like, what does your current or past exercise routine look like? How would you define success after working with us over the next 6 months? And what do you think is a realistic commitment for you long-term as far as how many days per week and what you want to commit towards in exercise? And then most importantly, shutting up and letting them talk. I think that the stat is that, like, there was that one study about physical therapists doing intake exams, and it said the average physical therapist interrupts their client's intake every 12 seconds.
Oh my God.
And I think sometimes it comes from a good place, and that the average therapist or coach wants to tell them how much they can help them and wants to tell them how they have solutions. But the reality is these people want to talk about themselves, and letting them talk about themselves is how they're going to start to feel comfortable with you and build trust with you. And so there's a great quote. I think Jenny Rierick told me a while ago, says, rules without relationship lead to rebellion. And so when you start trying to coach people really intensely where you don't already have a relationship with them, it's a big turnoff. And so, like, one of the things we tell our interns is, like, I don't want you going up to someone on the floor you don't know and starting to coach them. Find out who they are, get their information, learn about them, and then say, hey, can I give you some tips on that single leg deadlift? Before you start to say, hey, I need you to, bend your knee, or I need you to fix your pelvis, whatever it's going to be. And so that intro session should be focused primarily on conversation and just bleeding those exercises in. And like you said, starting to listen about what they want. Like, if they say, hey, I'm really focused on mobility, well, let's add a little bit more mobility stuff in today, because it's going to help you think that, hey, listen, this person's listening to me, and then I'm willing to listen to them. And then you can kind of build the program from there.
Yeah. And along those lines, you said it. What's the realistic commitment? How many days? Because a lot of times, like, well, all right, so we're going to give you a 4-day program. I'm going to give you some homework. I want you to start drinking half your body weight in ounces. And meanwhile, they were like, I just want to come in twice a week, and I'm going to go take my dog for a walk every morning. I promise, to get my steps up. But, we have to find out what they, like you said, with the physical therapist, they want to show them how much they know, and they do want to help them, but they have something in their head already. No, you have to listen to that person. And I remember Jonathan Goodman had a good quote from the last night he saw your lecture, and it was the 10-5 rule. And this, to me, is really important. Somebody asked me how I did so well at Equinox when I started. I said 3 things: visibility. So I was always on the floor. I wasn't in the break room talking to the other trainers. Engagement. I was looking at people. I was smiling. I said good morning. I said take care. Have a good workout. Whatever it is, when I didn't know them. And then differentiation. So I was got into the golf thing, right? Whatever. I think this engagement piece is so important. And you talked about it. If you're going to go up to somebody to help them, correct them, you got to hopefully already engage somehow. Talk to us about is it the 5-10 or the 10-5?
Yeah, so this was popularized by Ritz-Carlton. I'm sure it's in a lot of hospitality spaces. And so that's this idea that, when a staff member's within 10 feet of someone, they make eye contact and say hello. If they're in 5 feet, they greet them verbally by their name and ask them if there's any way that they can help them. And I said, I probably abuse this. It's probably the 150 rule for me. Like, if I see someone come in the gym from across, I'm always like, hey, how you doing? And hey, what can I do to help you? You want to make them feel like this is their third place. And there's another kind of quote that I like. It's from this guy, Sid Mashburn. So he's a fashion designer. He has a great lecture on YouTube. If you look up Sid Mashburn, Hug Him With Your Eyes. We watched it in one of our staff meetings, and they were asking him about why his business, he owns a menswear business in Atlanta, and why it was so successful. And he said, the number one thing I tell my staff is I want them to hug every client with their eyes when they come in the door. And that's something we try to remind our staff is like, every time someone comes in, even if you don't know them, say, how you doing, and introduce yourself. It's the number one thing you can do to make them feel comfortable in your space when they're in there. And so every single time a client walks by me, I say, hey, how you doing? Check in with them. If it's Monday, tell me about your weekend. And if I don't know them, I'm going to say, hey, my name's Kevin. I work here. What's your name? And introduce them, especially when they're new. We have a new guy who started recently. And he was a guy that came in, and I already thought, like, right when you walked in the door, like, I don't know if this guy's going to stick, older, didn't seem comfortable here when he first started. And I've gone out of my way every time I see him. When he gets out of his car, he was getting out of his car the other day. I was like, hey, how you doing? Checking in with him. And everyone on the staff has gone out of their way to do it. He's stuck now for like 3 months. And so we're kind of getting through that 90-day, 60-day threshold with him to make him stay. And a lot of it is just building the relationship so they feel comfortable in here. And so I think that that's the number one thing that I think we do very well is there's never anyone standing around feeling like, I don't know what to do here. Like, I don't know anybody here. Someone will Carrie will jump out of the office. If I'm coaching on the floor, I'll say, hey, real quick, see if they need anything. And that goes a really long way to making people comfortable in a space like a gym where they might not necessarily be comfortable otherwise.
Yeah, I remember when I was at Todd Wright's place, they did a great job. What they did was, hey, all right, Kevin, Dan, Brendan, today we have Joe Smith coming in, we have Mary Smith coming in, and we have, John Renna coming in.
Yeah.
Make sure you say John's coming in at 8, Mary's coming in at 9, blah, blah, blah. So everybody knew the new people were coming in. So when I walked in to train for the game my first time, 3 people said, hey, Anthony, what's up? How you doing? I'm like, hey. They knew I was coming in at a certain time. And they had pictures. At Lifetime, you can look up your client. Let's say you have an onboarding session or you're doing a workshop. You can look them up on the computer. Their picture comes up. So you don't have to be like, oh, is this Carr? Is this Kevin Carr?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Hi, I'm Anthony. Are you Kevin? No. Right when you come up, it's like, hey, Kevin, what's up? So I love that idea of just everybody knowing and really making that person, because you do, as if you put yourself in the customer's shoes, you understand. You're like, oh yeah, they know who I am. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. You feel special. You feel like a VIP. And for us, it just all takes is an email or a group text to say, hey, we have so-and-so coming in at this time. Make sure you go up and say hello to them, make them feel welcome. And that could be the start of the snowball to make them really want to stay.
Yeah. What are some other things that now, okay, they get it. They got their first session. Your trainers are, really, they're hugging them with their eyes. They're making that person feel comfortable. They show them success. If everybody's going around engaging, great. We have a great culture in there. But still, it, like you said, it's not, we don't have that 100 days. I agree with you. Fitness is a little different. What else are you guys doing to make sure? I remember Vince Gabriel was telling me they had a person specifically for their trials. That person would just call everybody especially after a first day. They got a phone call that night. Hey, I know it was your first day today. If you're going to feel sore, you might want to, take a hot bath or, make sure you get some protein in, whatever. That person was like, wow, I had my first session today. They called me. What are you guys doing to follow up or to kind of continue this great engagement over that time?
Yeah, we've been doing that. We have a big board in Carrie's office, big whiteboard, and everyone who's new, like in that first window, their name, their trainer, their phone number, their email. And after they've been here, Carrie or Kat, someone from the office who actually isn't their coach intentionally, will call them and say, hey, I just want to check in to see how your experience has been at Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning. Is there any feedback you can give us? Or do you have a good connection with your coach? Give them an opportunity to give feedback outside of the coach. Maybe the coach isn't a good fit, right? And they want to switch to somebody else. Or, hey, maybe their group time isn't their ideal time and they want to switch to a different group. Give them an opportunity to give feedback. Almost all the time, it's very positive. Oh, I'm having a great time. Thank you for calling. whatever it is. But it's just the fact that you took the time to contact them makes a really big difference. Again, the silent ones, the ones you don't communicate with, are the ones who eventually sometimes leave. So if you continue to keep the communication open, it allows you to nip any problems that you potentially have in the butt, and just make them feel like you care about them. I think when your client feels neglected after the sale is made, then they start to have some sort of resentment or buyer's remorse over the situation. And so you want to make sure you take away any opportunity for that to happen. One thing I've been working really hard at too is this MBSC 101 handbook for clients. That kind of is like everything you need to know about MBSC when you start here. Everything from where you should park, to the cubbies, to the bathrooms, to suggested gym clothing. I mean, you wouldn't think as someone who is in fitness, hey, this is what you should wear to work out. But the amount of people who come here in jeans and boots, or the athletes that come in, in Crocs, hey, this is probably good footwear for you. All of that is you delivering value to them outside of the time that they're with you. Mike's basic articles, Does It Hurt? Some basic articles so they understand, what we do and what our training philosophy is. Just starting to deliver value outside of here, I think is really important. And that's something you do like one time and then you automate it. So it's not a lot of work and maybe a little bit up front, but it makes them feel like, hey, they're really trying to deliver value to me. And then going out of our way to try to build community. I think something that's important to realize, you talked about the pickleball, about that's motivating people to come in and work out, right? And so what's important to realize, extrinsic motivators are typically what get people to start exercising, right? Aesthetics, their performance in a sport, or maybe some external health marker from their doctor. Hey, you need to improve your blood lipid numbers, your blood pressure, whatever it is. That's typically what motivates people we know to go to a gym. But we know it's not what keeps people going to a gym. The research tends to show intrinsic motivation is what leads to adherence. And so while your messaging for your sales should probably actually be centered around extrinsic things, the things that are going to lead to adherence and retention are going to probably be intrinsic. So their enjoyment, their social interaction, their community, how they feel. And so going out of your way to include them in things that make them feel like they're a part of a tribe. Because everyone wants to have some sort of identity. So one, giving them a t-shirt right away seems simple. The t-shirts are the most popular thing that we do here at Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning. It's also one of our largest expenses is shirts. We give away shirts like 4 times a year to everyone that's here. They really want them and they wear them proudly. Like everyone in my group, I had 8 people in my group this morning. Before this, every single one had an MBSC t-shirt on.
Wow.
That they pick up every day to put on. And then they wear it outside of here. We hold community events at the gym all the time. We do fundraisers. Hey, we invite them all to come to the fundraiser. We invite them to come to the open houses we hold. We invite them to all our Christmas parties, social parties, all those things. Continue to endear them to a community. And I think every time you do something like that, it's a deposit in that kind of social bank, so to speak, with the client, that they feel like they're a part of something. Whether it's like something as simple as we do these Thanksgiving Day workouts or Christmas workouts or Easter workouts. These people are going to spend one of their holidays with you. To me, that means something to them if they're going to spend some time out of their day on a day off or a holiday. All of those little things that when you're like first start training, all you care about is like the technical aspects. Like when I first started coaching, I just cared about like, how do we program this? Like none of the other stuff to me was important. But then you realize that's why what makes a facility successful is all the things outside of that. And so intentionally trying to pay attention to all of those things, going to kids' games, going to signing days for athletes when they commit to a university. Like I've been to more games and more high school signing days and more, summer league games than I could count. But all that is what keeps people here. And so intentionally thinking of with each client, how can I continue to make a social deposit with them so that they feel like they're part of a community?
Yeah, I love that idea of the Mike Boyle, the MBSC, guide, right? And the t-shirts. Joey Coleman does talk about that, as well as the gifting part. Why people, when you do give these kind of extra value, people feel not that they want to give back to you, but they'll stay a little bit longer because they're, hey, these guys care about me, and they want to reciprocate as well. So it's really interesting. What people can come up with. And I know, like you said, people love those shirts. So Kev, let's finish up with the rundown this weekend coming up. All right. If you're not in the Boston area, you can still go or attend. So give us the rundown on the spring seminar, April 1st and 2nd.
Yep. So April 1st and 2nd from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday, and then from 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. on Sunday. So you get the Sunday afternoon off. It's a day and a half. And so we have guest speakers are Jordan Syatt, Scott Livingston, Pat Van Galen, both amazing. Like you said, very different kind of topics. Jordan's going to be talking about social media and building his online business. He has a very successful online coaching business. Pat Van Galen is one of my favorite speakers. She's so energetic. She walks the walk like she talks the talk. So she's going to talk about active aging, how to continue to increase both health span and lifespan. And then Scott, someone who's got 30 years of experience in professional strength conditioning. Going to talk about using video analysis with your clients. And I did a podcast with him where he really kind of goes in depth on how he does that on a daily basis. And then also our staff, obviously Mike Boyle will be speaking, as well as myself, Vinny Toludo, Dan McGinley, and Eric Daddario, one of our first time presenters. He's been on our staff for a long time, and he does a lot of public speaking. He's a great public speaker, specifically talking to high school and collegiate sports teams about dealing with some of the psychological issues that happen, depression, anxiety, and how you can manage those with communication within the team. He's a very, very good public speaker, so you won't want to miss him. And so, like I said, if you are not in the Boston area and you want to catch us via live stream, you can sign up at mbscspringseminar.com. You're going to get a live stream right from your house, and then you're also going to have access to the recordings after the fact. So if you can't see all the lectures live, within the next week or so, once they're edited, we'll put them right up. So you're going to be able to access them on the server anytime you want, forever. And so it's a great deal. It's just over $100 for you to be able to watch via live stream. So, I mean, that's pretty inexpensive. And we have CEUs approved by NASM, AFAA, and NSCA. So you can get a start on your 2023 CEU total right there. So I mean, pretty good deal, lots of good speakers, and I'm sure not to disappoint.
Very cool. I'm so jealous because I have some serious FOMO. I used to be the easy ride up to Boston and just get there and hang out. You're also having a social, so I don't even want to talk about that right now.
Yeah. Friday night, hobo.
Yeah. So, yeah, thanks for doing this. Love all the information that you've been given. I'm looking forward to watching your lecture when it comes out. So I appreciate you coming on, brother.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Anthony. Appreciate it.
All right, that's going to do it for episode 355 of the Strength Coach Podcast. Guys, the show notes are located at continuefit.com or strengthcoachpodcast.com. Don't forget, you can try the new strengthcoach.com out for 7 days for free. Go to strengthcoach.com for that trial offer. Special thanks to Chris Parrier and the folks over at Perform Better. On sale right now, 50% off, a bunch of stuff for the online sale. Bumper plates, kettlebells, dumbbells, so much more. Also, the one-day seminars continue. Last one in Chicago, April 22nd. Actually might go to that one myself. It's going to be a game time decision. The summit dates for Orlando, Chicago, Long Beach, and Providence are all set. I will be speaking in Long Beach. Pretty excited about that. Check it all out at performbetter.com. Thanks to Coach Boyle and Kevin Carr for sharing their insights and philosophies into the world of strength and conditioning, performance enhancement, and customer engagement. Check out the anniversary interview I did with Coach Boyle, 40 Mistakes, 40 Years. There is a link to access that at StrengthCoachPodcast.com. Thanks to Sumit Seth and Naamly, helping build relationships through personalized communication so your members stay longer and pay longer. Go to Naamly.com. Use the referral code StrengthCoach to get started on a free 30-day trial. Thanks to AG1 from Athletic Greens. Visit athleticgreens.com/StrengthCoach to get your free year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs today. That's going to do it. My name's Anthony Renna. Thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you next time.